1B, 1A is a resolution to establish a Bachelor of Arts in Biology for allied health professions at the City College of New York. I call on Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost Alicia Alvaro to provide background on this item.
The American Hospital Association predicts a shortage of 100,000 critical health care workers by 2028. Recognizing the need for an affordable option, the City College proposes this program to prepare students for careers in the allied health professions and also address a societal need for more practitioners in these occupations. City College has signed an articulation agreement with LaGuardia Community College, ensuring that students enrolling in the proposed BA program will receive applicable transfer credits and be granted appropriate academic standing in the major. Based on demand, section size, and current staffing, the program is expected to cover all operating costs within the first 5 years, making it financially sustainable. Provost List is available to respond to questions a committee might have about this item.
Okay, thank you. I move the approval of policy item 1B, 1A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussions? Okay, hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? That item passes. Policy item 1B, 1B is a resolution to establish an advanced certificate in special education, all grades at Lehman College. Again, I'll call on Vice Chancellor and University Provost.
The proposed 18-credit advanced certificate program, which will contribute to addressing workforce shortages, will equip teacher candidates with the specialized pedagogical knowledge, assessment skills, and clinical experience necessary to support students with disabilities across various grade levels, while also offering educators from other disciplines a pathway to specialize in special education. The courses are part of the Master of Science in Education all grades curriculum, leveraging the existing robust special education curriculum. Based on projected enrollments and existing faculty capacity, the proposed program aims to be financially sustainable and is projected to generate sufficient revenue to support program operations. If the committee has any questions about this item, President Delgado would be happy to respond.
Okay, I move the approval of policy item 1B, 1B. Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? That item passes. Policy item 1B, 1C is a resolution to establish a Bachelor of Arts program in computational linguistics at Queens College. Again, Provost Nero.
Queens College proposes to establish what will represent the only undergraduate degree program in computational linguistics at a public institution in New York City and the surrounding region. This interdisciplinary bachelor's program combines linguistics, computer science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, and will provide students with foundational and applied training in natural language processing, machine learning, and corpus analysis, preparing graduates for a range of high-demand professional roles in this growing field. The program is designed both with existing courses and to be self-sustaining. It is projected to achieve financial sustainability within 2 years through enrollment-generated revenue without requiring additional staffing resources. President Wu is in attendance and can respond to questions the committee might have about this item.
Thank you. I move the approval of policy item 1B, 1C. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to say that I like the singularity of this program and being the only one in New York. It's a big plus, so kudos. So we'll put this all to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstention? That item passes. Policy item 1B, 1D is a resolution to establish an advanced certificate in public history at Queens College. Dr. Alvaro.
This 18-credit advanced certificate will fall within the Master of Library Science, Masters of Arts and History dual degree program and will prepare students for careers in cultural heritage fields through a structured curriculum that includes a supervised internship. Alumni of the MLS, MA dual degree in library science and history will be eligible to return to Queens College to pursue the advanced certificate in public history as a standalone credential. Based on projected enrollments and current faculty capacity, the program will require adjunct faculty appointments during its first 2 years and will add full-time faculty only when enrollment-generated revenue is sufficient to support such appointments, which is projected to occur in year 3. President Wu can answer any questions the committee might have.
I move the approval of policy item 1B, 1D. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussions on this? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? That item passes. Policy item 1B2A is a resolution to appoint Dr. Nuket Sandal as professor with immediate tenure at Baruch College.
CUNY seeks to recruit and retain distinguished scholars of proven record to strengthen its faculty and advance the university's mission. As part of a national and international community of scholars, CUNY customarily recognizes the judgment of colleagues at other institutions with respect to faculty personnel decisions and has an expectation of reciprocity. Dr. Nuket Sandal is an accomplished scholar who will be joining CUNY as a tenured professor from Ohio University. Professor Sandal was selected through a rigorous national search to serve as Dean of the Weissman School of Arts and Sciences at Baruch College, an appointment that was approved by the CUNY Board of Trustees in February 2026. Provost Essig is available to respond to any questions the committee might have.
Thank you. I move the approval of policy item 1B2A. Do I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstention? That item passes. Policy item 1B3A through 1B3C relate to awarding early tenure to 3 faculty at Hunter College. Again, Dr. Albero.
The proposed actions represent efforts by Hunter College to retain exceptional scholars of proven record who have met or exceeded the requirements for tenure. The candidates for early tenure are Tao Lee Goff in the Department of Women and Gender Studies, Hiba Gowayed in the Department of Sociology, Andrea Kulanaskis in the Department of Classical and Oriental Studies. If the committee has any questions about these items, Provost Partisani is available to respond.
Thank you. I move the approval of policy item 1B3A through 1B3C. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Henry?
I just, I go through these, and I know each case is unique, but we have one case here where a faculty member with 5 years of prior service has only been here for 2 years before they're considered for early tenure. We have another case where faculty member had prior service as an adjunct professor, but has only been here for 3.5 years. Has only been a full-time professor, 3.5 years before we're awarding early tenure. And I just, awarding tenure, I think is such an important step. And it just seems that some of these are moving awfully quickly. And since so many of them seem to come from Hunter over the years, I think Hunter has more early tenures than all the other schools combined. I'm concerned that we just look at these very, very carefully. I don't know if there's any need, anybody wants to speak to that.
Yeah. Provost Partisani?
In each of these cases, the departments actually submit the names of the candidates because they feel either they're a flight risk because there are other offers on the table, or they're being recruited strongly by other colleges or universities. In the case of one of those candidates who's been here for a shorter time, she's now been appointed a visiting professor at Harvard University for the next academic year. She's probably going to be recruited by that university. She had a second book that was published that was highlighted and in the New York Times with a full-page interview. So these are candidates that are quite exceptional given their even their short amount of time, their scholarship and their contributions to the field of their discipline. But I understand what you're saying, and we'll pay more attention as these come up to the provost's office from the dean's
I
office.
just want to be sure that they're exceptional cases, and I don't worry about that school on the Charles River.
All right, well, thank you very much.
All three are exceptional cases and flight risks, and all three departments begged that if we could do something to, and they had and it goes through the department PNB, then it comes to the full college PNB, FPNB, that decides whether this is relevant and applicable or not. So it's not sort of like a, quick decision on any of these.
Thank you very much.
All right, so hearing no more discussions, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? That item passes. Policy item 1B4A is a resolution to appoint Professor Nizan Pakin at the Newberger Berman Zicklin Family Chair in the Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College. Again, Dr. Alvaro.
The Newberger Berman Zicklin Family Chair at Baruch College was established in 2018 to recognize an outstanding faculty member in a discipline of strategic importance to the Zicklin School of Business, reflecting the beliefs and values of its namesake by focusing on innovative approaches to solving complex and consequential challenges in the business world. The position, which has historically supported prominent visiting professors, is for the first time being awarded to a full-time faculty nominee. Professor Nizan Pakin is being appointed to the Newberger Berman Zicklin Family Chair for her exceptional record of high-impact scholarship, thought leadership, and interdisciplinary engagement. Provost Essig can respond to any questions the committee might have.
Oh, thank you. I move the approval of policy item 1B4A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? That item passes. Policy item 1B5A through 1B5GG are resolutions requesting to award 33 honorary degrees from 17 campuses and the university. And again, Dr. Alves.
I'm getting ready. At each of its commencements, the colleges of the City University of New York recognize the achievements of exceptional private citizens by conferring to them honorary degrees. The university specifically honors individuals who, through their work, their research, their art, or their activism, have meaningfully contributed to the building a better or more just society, and thus reflecting the mission of CUNY. Baruch College nominates former chairman and founder of the Chipotle Mexican Grill, Steve Ells, and Louise Muir, president of the New York Historical and former CUNY executive vice chancellor of academic affairs. Brooklyn College recommends Patrick Gaspard, former U.S. ambassador to South Africa and former leader of the 1199 SEIU United Healthcare Workers East, as well as Melissa Murray, director of the Berman Women's Leadership Center at NYU Law. City College nominates Russell Honore, retired three-star lieutenant general of the U.S. Army who led the response to Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, as well as Daniel Berg, a distinguished alumnus, generous supporter of the Grove School of Engineering, and distinguished scientist and educator widely recognized for his work in the management of technology and innovation. The College of Staten Island recommends Laura Kennedy, a nationally recognized advocate for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, having served as a president of the board of directors for the ARC of the United States and AHRC New York City, and on the Willowbrook Mile Committee at the College of Staten Island. The Graduate Center nominates Kimi Islanmi, an art strategist and leader who works to build a more connected arts ecosystem within the networks of Black and Brown artists across the U.S. and African diaspora, and David Spergel, an internationally recognized astrophysicist and academic leader and president of the Simons Foundation. Hostos Community College recommends Dr. Amarilis Jacobo, an advocate for health equity who has demonstrated sustained generosity and dedication to education and higher education. She has made significant contributions to the public service and in civic engagement, including through her roles on the New York Forward Reopening Advisory Board and as director of the Hostos Community College Foundation. Dr. Jacobo is president-elect of the New York State Dental Association, former president of the Hispanic Dental Association, and founding member of the Dominican Dental Association. Hunter College nominates multiple award-winning actress and activist Jane Fonda and Leonard Lauder posthumously, chairman emeritus of the Estee Lauder Companies and the extraordinary supporter of the Hunter Bellevue School of Nursing and the Department of Art and Art History. John Jay College recommends Lonnie Bunch, founding director of the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, and the first African American and first historian to serve as secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, as well as Lydia Villa Kamaroff, lifelong advocate for equity and inclusion and one of the first Mexican American women in the U.S. to receive a doctoral degree in the sciences. Lehman College nominates Dorothy Dunn, a former director of education at the Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum, alumnus and editor-in-chief of the American Journal of Nursing, Carl Curtin. Beth Leaf, civil rights attorney and former executive director of the Petrie Foundation. Michael Nieves, president and CEO of the Hispanic Information Telecommunications Network. And Richard M. Smith, president of the Pinkerton Foundation and former chairman and CEO of Newsweek. Macaulay Honors recommends alumnus, entrepreneur, humanitarian, and leader in ethical global food systems, Ethan Frisch, and Uzra Zia, president and CEO of Human Rights First, a distinguished diplomat. She previously served as U.S. Undersecretary for Civilian Security, Democracy, and Human Rights. Queens College nominates alumna Marie Maynard Daly Clark posthumously, the first African-American woman in the U.S. to be awarded a doctorate in chemistry, and alumna Lucy Freeman Sandler, an internationally respected art historian and one of the world's foremost authorities on medieval illuminated manuscripts. The School of Labor and Urban Studies recommends Gwen Wilcox, a historic labor lawyer and the first Black woman to serve on the National Labor Relations Board, which she chaired. The School of Law nominates Maya Wiley, respected civil rights attorney, advocate, and thought leader serving in prominent local and national leadership roles, including chair of the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board. The School of Medicine recommends Sandra and Arnold Gold, who helped transform medical education in the U.S. and internationally by championing humanism, compassion, and patient-centered care, and Wayne Riley, whose national leadership as a physician, educator, and public health advocate has shaped major conversations on health disparities, public health reform, and the future of equitable healthcare delivery. The Graduate School of Public Health and Health Policy nominates Georges Benjamin, Executive Director of the American Public Health Association, who is widely recognized as one of the most influential physician leaders in the United States, having spent nearly 50 years in public health and clinical medicine. York College recommends Adrienne Adams, the first Black speaker of the New York City Council and champion of the CUNY Reconnect program, and Elena Bornstein, alumna and founding faculty member of the Fine Arts Department for over 3 decades, who made significant contributions to contemporary American art and to CUNY. The university nominates Richard Bouri, president and CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation and former New York City deputy mayor for strategic policy initiatives, Mitchell Drazen, founder and president of the Concordia Philanthropic Fund and founder of CUNY's LGBTQIA+ Advisory Council, and Susan Schenck, a nationally recognized business leader whose career has advanced public finance, investments in public institutions, and access to capital for minority-owned businesses. She is the co-founder, president, and chief executive officer of Siebert Williams Shank and Company, LLC, one of the nation's leading women and minority-owned investment banking firms. Should the committee have questions about any of these honorary degree nominations, representatives from the colleges are available to respond.
Thank you very much for that. I move the approval of policy item 1B5A through 1B5GG. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a question. With Lehman College, I see 5 honorary degree nominations. I don't know if that's the usual number. It seems quite a lot. I just want to confirm that all 5 of them, are required, basically.
Yes. So President Delgado, I believe, is here, but they have multiple graduations. And so my understanding, is that correct, President Delgado? Yes, 4 separate
Okay.
graduations.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And just for context, right, there's no limitations in our bylaws or our guidelines to do that. It's more historical patterns. Actually, if you go to some universities, they have, 7, 8, 9, 10 people that they bring in, and that's for a single campus, right?
Yes.
So,
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll put this to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? That item passes. Policy item 1B6A is a resolution to approve the Faculty Personnel Matters Report of the Education Policy Committee. Dr. Albano.
The information contained in the Faculty Personnel Matters Report includes appointments and reappointments with tenure as well as fellowship leaves. This cycle's Faculty Personnel Matters Report of the Education Policy Committee was generated from faculty data entered into CUNY First, the university's system of record, between February 13, 2026 and March 20th, 2026.
Thank you. I move the approval of policy item 1B6A. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstention? That item passes. Policy item 1B6B is a resolution requesting approval of the actions in the curriculum and the academic policy dashboard report.
Routine academic matters, local academic policies, and course inclusions in the university's general education program are presented to the Committee on Education Policy in summary format generated from an online dashboard. Highlights from this cycle's dashboard report include 12 program actions, 5 undergraduate policy revisions, 2 graduate policy revisions, and the classification of 10 new general education courses.
I move the approval of policy item 1B6B. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstention? That item passes. With no more items on the policy calendar, we now move to the information item. Again, provost.
In early 2022, the CUNY Board of Trustees amended the standardized testing requirement for undergraduate admissions to make the submission of standardized test scores, such as the SAT and the ACT, optional for admission consideration for fall 2023 through spring 2025. In 2024, the university extended that policy to fall 25, spring 26, fall 26, and spring 27. With 5 years of experience and data admitting students without requiring SAT scores, the university is in a good position to consider whether or not to continue with the current policy. As University Dean for Policy Research, Sarah Trelsch, will soon highlight, it is a recommendation of the University Committee on Academic Policy comprised of central office and campus leaders that the test optional policy continue indefinitely. She will explain the supporting factors and evidence that helped the committee arrive at its recommendations. Without further ado, I'll ask Sarah to present.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction. I think that lays out exactly the conditions that we have. So just to be clear, the current policy, which makes submission of SAT or ACT scores optional for an applicant for admission to a bachelor's program at CUNY, expires for the fall 2027 cycle. Admissions for the fall 2027 cycle begins September 2026. So we ideally will have a decision in late spring or early summer if any changes need to be communicated to our stakeholders or any changes in college admissions processes are to be made. So that's the timeline we're looking at. And again, we think this is a very appropriate time to revisit this admissions decision. As some of you may recall, 2 years ago when we were last faced with this decision, we came to the conclusion that it was simply too early and there were too many other confounding factors related to the pandemic to accurately assess how well admissions of the SATs was going. Since then, we have 2 additional years of data which are extremely instructive and show us some very useful patterns that I think help underscore the recommendation from the Committee on Academic Policy to extend the current test optional admissions policy indefinitely. And I'll review the committee's reasons for making that recommendation now. First, looking at the landscape of our local competitors and most flagship public universities, we find that the vast majority of bachelor's programs continue to be test optional. I'll go through each of these points in a little bit more detail in the coming slides and show you some examples that we're looking at. Also, there's a very strong body of national research as well as research we've conducted internally at CUNY about the relationship between SAT scores and student success in college, including first-year grades, retention into a second year of college, and eventual graduation. All of that research in our local context and in the flag, sort of the benchmark national studies suggest that SAT makes a relatively small contribution and a much, much smaller contribution than high school grades in predicting all of the academic outcomes that we care about. Also, as I've said, we've been looking at the enrollment, retention, and grade trends that our freshman classes have experienced both before and after SAT optional admissions. And we've seen a very healthy return of academic outcomes in the last couple of years that make us more confident that our colleges have figured out how to do admissions without requiring SATs. And finally, we see that since submission of SATs has been optional, fewer than 10% of our applicants have chosen to submit SATs. So clearly, students and applicants have appreciated the option to not have to submit the SATs. So going into more detail about each of these. Looking across the country, colleges have come to a very broad array of decisions about how to use standardized tests as part of their admissions policy. These choices reflect both the applicant pool these different institutions have, their goals and purposes, and the resources they have to put into admissions. Even within schools of similar levels of resources and selectivity, however, we do see very different decisions about the requirements to use around the SAT. So looking at the left, we have several prominent systems. The most notable, the entire University of California system, as of now, is test blind and does not accept SATs or ACTs, does not accept as part of their admissions process, and really focuses decisions on students' high school transcripts. It's also the case that the Rutgers University Newark campus is no longer selecting or accepting SAT or ACT scores. The vast majority of bachelor's colleges, including the vast majority of those we consider peers or local competitors, have remained test optional. According to the Fair Test Organization, over 2,000 bachelor's degree granting schools are test optional for fall 2026 and most likely going forward. That includes very prominent schools like Duke and the University of Chicago, as well as Columbia and many of our local competitors, not only Columbia, but Fordham as well, and St. John's. There's also some colleges that have taken a text-flexible approach. These are schools that require or request tests, but will accept things in additional to the SAT or ACT. So in the case of Yale and NYU, they will also look at AP scores or IB scores. And then finally, in the most extreme examples, we have a relatively small number of colleges who have gone back to requiring the SAT or ACT as part of their admissions. You can see this is overwhelmingly dominated by extremely selective and very well-resourced colleges that are making very difficult admissions decisions on a really large body of applicants and have an extensive system of evaluating those SATs in the context of individual applicants' high school backgrounds. Moving on to some of the internal evidence that we've looked at to suggest the role that the SATs might have in our admissions. The chart on this slide represents a relatively sort of simple, illustrative statistical exercise we can do to look at the informative power we get from high school grades versus SATs. What we do is regress the individual students' high school GPAs on their first year college grades. We find that just doing that, looking at the variation in high school GPA alone, explains 23.9% of the variation we see in first semester college grades at CUNY. If we add in additional pieces of information, like the individual college a student attends, their individual year of attendance, their SEEK status, their household adjusted gross income, we can get up to explaining 27.6% of that variation. So really not a huge amount on top of what we already see by high school grades, which are incredibly informative. And if to that we then add in SAT scores, we can get up to explaining 28.9% of the variation in first term or first year college GPAs at CUNY. So that SATs do have some independent information. They are definitely on their own correlated with outcomes in our grades, but that additional information is relatively small on top of what we see on grades alone. And as we discussed this in the Committee on Academic Policy, that small additional bit of information didn't seem worthwhile to justify the requirement that all applicants submit SATs. I will just not go into more detail, but say that we have looked at variations on the kind of example I just gave you in much more statistically rigorous methods. And we've looked at a variety of outcomes, including 4-year, 5-year, and 6-year graduation rates. And in every one of those exercises, we've come to the conclusion that the high school GPA is much, much more informative than SATs, and we've modeled out our admissions decisions before and after the invocation of the test optional policy in ways that have suggested that very little useful information is lost by not requiring our applicants to submit SAT scores. Finally, I'll share with you just some descriptive statistics about the trends we've seen both before, after, and during the test optional admissions policies and the test blind policies. So the chart on this slide shows trends in bachelor's freshman enrollment from 2015 through 2025. You can see that our freshman enrollment in bachelor's programs has grown substantially in the past decade, crucially remaining strong during the very challenging years of the pandemic, starting around 2020. So we've been able to maintain strong enrollment in our bachelor's programs. At the same time that we've done that, we've seen some ups and downs in students' freshman academic outcomes. The chart on the left here shows average freshman first-term GPAs. You can see that there was a decline in freshman GPAs going into 2019 and especially hitting its low points during the height of the pandemic for the classes of 2021 and 2022. But in the past 2 years, we've seen a marked increase in freshman average GPAs, and they're now just slightly below where they were in 2019. The chart on the right shows first-year retention, so the percentage of our incoming fall freshman cohorts who then returned for a second year of college. Again, that's a pattern that saw a clear downturn during the height of the pandemic. So for the cohorts enrolling in 2020, coming back for 21, our low point was the freshman cohort who started in 2021 with their relatively low retention rates into 2022. But since that, the 2022 cohort, 2023 cohort, and 2024 cohort have all had year-over-year increases in their retention rates, and our retention rate in 2024 was very similar to our pre-pandemic highs. So we really do seem to have come out of a difficult and challenging time with multiple academic disruptions in both the high school and college experience during the height of the pandemic to a more normal set of trends that are very similar to what we saw when SATs were required for admissions. We are now achieving very similar academic outcomes without requiring SATs and with the vast majority of our applicants choosing not to submit those SATs. So that concludes the prepared materials, and I'm very happy to open it up for questions and discussion.
Do we have any questions about this? The data seems pretty self-evident, I'd say. So I guess we don't have to vote on this, though. There's no vote, there's just information. Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate all the work.
I do have a statement from Akeem Polak. He said I should thank you for attending the USS meeting yesterday. He appreciates your presence, basically.
And can I add my commentary that we have the most amazing data team in the entire higher ed, which Sarah is part of, so very proud of their work, so kudos.
Thank you very much.
So with no more items on the agenda, I move that this meeting convene an executive session pursuant to Article 7, Sections 105C, D, E, and F of the Public Officers Law to discuss matters pertaining to personnel, investigations, litigation, and collective negotiations. May I have a second? Okay, the board will not reconvene. Yeah.